rig that I've been working on during the Christmas vacation because I can't chill. And there's a couple of things in there that are very fun to show off. And one of those things is the shirt and the dress because like the shirt is a one-off sleeve, and the dress has a cool asymmetrical thingy to it. Crank up the bass. Yes. Um, um, yeah. So what I'm gonna show you first with this rig is actually how to open a Harmony file from your computer, because this is something that that I didn't know, that I learned really recently. So it's never too late to learn something. So let's say that you have a let's say that you have a file and you have many Harmony versions installed on your computer. So I'm going to show you like a couple of ways of how to fix them. Not how to fix them, but like how to choose the right application to open with. Sorry, I was reading something at the same time. So let's say that I have I have many versions. Would be nice to make a throwback stream going on version 9 or something. But if you have if you have a couple Harmony files and you want to open it with one of those, if you're on a PC, sometimes it's going to be hard to find the right things to open it with. So if you go to one of your folders, what you can actually do is just drag and drop your file over there. So that's something I didn't know. I learned it like this week. So maybe you knew, but I did not. So I thought I would share. So let's say that I have this window and I want to open this file. You can just take it, because the last software that's going to open is the last one you have installed. So I installed 20 to do some debugging some weeks ago. So all my files will default to this. So one quick way, instead of going to your preferences and changing it because I'm lazy, you can just take this and drag it to one of the icon, and it's going to use the one you drag it on to open it. I didn't know that. So I thought I would show you right away when my computer decides to work. Thank you, computer, for exploding in my face. Technical things always happens when we're on stream, right? So it's always like that. There we go. Okay, I have my file here. You can just do this and drag it here, and it should open with the right software. It's opening on my second monitor, but trust me, it opened. And should be there any second now. And in the meantime, I'm going to show you. Oh, there it is. I have a very old computer, okay? It's like 7 years old. So there you go. 8 years old now. Happy New Year, everyone. Yay. Okay, so that's what I wanted to show you first. Now I have this rig, and what I want to show is that when you rig a character like that, sometimes it might be the first thing we would think when we want to rig this is to take this sash over here, and I'm just gonna make a new drawing here, and like the first reflex is to try to rig it like this, and then oops and then thank you, sorry, and then you would just put like a deformer on that shape, and it would work great as long as your character is standing front view. So you could have this, and then you can make like an extra piece to have like the behind, which I think it would work great sometimes with like a belt or something that doesn't have that much of a definition. So if I had like a little belt, that's probably what I would do. So I would have like a front piece of the belt, and then like an extra piece behind that would be the under. But with that sash, it's different, because when your character turns to like quarter or profile, you kind of need that whole thing to move, and it's going to be a nightmare to try to move that piece to the sides. If we have time, I'm going to show you like how it would look like, but I'd rather show you how to fix it than show you the wrong thing, because I think it's more useful. Uh, and like that. So what we actually want to do is, and I made a little quarter pose just to show you. She's really happy to do that pose for you guys. It's a team effort. Um, so I put some wind into the dress, and just to get some action going. So to get it to be a quarter front like this, instead of having to move multiple pieces to get the angle, if it were like a deformer like this, what we actually will do usually is have, it's kind of like a trick. You have a piece that's going to allow this to show, but like if I want to change the angle, all I'm going to have to do is click on this and kind of, oops, not this one, this one. This one, please. No, why isn't it working? Yeah, and then just move it like this so that you can fake that it's changing direction. So that's really good, because then if I'm not exactly satisfied with the angle, I can just do this and change it slightly. It takes me 1 second instead of having to move all the deformer points to kind of fake that shape. So it's not logical from an animator's point of view right away, because when you're an animator, what you expect is to get one piece like this and then get deformers on these and just like move it and whatnot. And then a piece like this. Like this is kind of like the logical approach. And when I started as a cutout animator, that's what I would have liked to see at first. But that was because I didn't have much experience. So logically, I will agree, because it's like 3D animation. So logically, I will agree that it would be better to move this piece and this piece. However, if my character needs to be slightly more profile to get this piece here to look more like yes, yeah, to get that piece to be instead like this, I want it to be like this. That piece then would need to stretch a lot because of the deformer points. So it will sometimes be very hard to fake it. So the technique that I'm going to show you, I warn you from the get-go, it doesn't look that practical, but I swear once you get used to it, most of the high-end animation show, like this is a technique that is, it's common. Like, you know me, I wouldn't teach anything that is not proven and common. That's my staple in my career, and that's the staple in my YouTube as well. So that's why like I have not that many freaking videos so far, but I'm getting more. But I really want to teach only things that are proven to work. Like I don't want to teach weird experimental things. I really want to show you things that are proven and that works. Like I make the mistake so that you don't have to. um so yeah, so what we usually do for sashes, for weird asymmetrical design, is to do this. So how does that work to be able to fake it? Because if I just use our front view, I can decide where the sash is looking by, is it this one? That's a work in progress rig, okay? And I have the wrong version too. I should have opened another version, but I'll make this work. So that little icon is actually supposed to be here, but whatever. So I have this little icon to move it. So then I can change the angle of my sash in seconds, which I couldn't do if it was lots of PPCs of different work. Okay? So how does it work? Now it's the time to show you the magic. So we actually have a piece that looks like the shape of the sash. So usually, you know, you'd have a, oh no, you'd have like a deformer like this, like I said. So we kind of have that, but actually we have a piece that is kind of like this. Whoop. Like this. And this is a mask. So you don't see it, but it's a piece that is there. And that piece, what it says is it only allows the sash to appear here. It's not going to appear outside of that shape. So if I click here, that's what I will have. This mask is not the sash itself. It's really just a mask that allows the mask to appear. So what is under that mask? It's many kind of like repetition of the same motif. All right, so I'm gonna read the chat while you guys assimilate this information. So yes, Provo Creative, you can just drag the X stage on the icon. It works. Some people in dev showed me that last week, and I was like, my life has been a lie for the past 7 years. What else? Thank you, Provo Creative, for saying that it's really amazing to see the poses I get out of my cutout characters. I appreciate. Cutters for life, you are right. Jerome Munchkin says, it really doesn't feel like a puppet. Thank you so much. Question for puppet cutout artists and animators. Do you prefer to use the term puppet or cutout? I have no... I care very little for that. So I don't have any preference. Puppet, cutout, it's the same thing. I don't think one of them is bad. So sometimes I call them... Well, I call the things, I call them puppets, but I usually call it cutout animation because that's what I've been saying for years. Puppet, I don't usually say puppet animation because puppet animation, I just think of puppets. And by puppets, I mean like sub-puppets. And I don't think they look like sub-puppet, even though I like them. Yeah, puppet or cutout, I really don't care about it. I usually do say cutout animation, and I call like the rig. Sometimes I'm gonna call them puppets. Yeah. A whole Q&A about capes and skirts rigging would be great in the future. Well, that's kind of what I am doing. So if you have any questions about capes and dresses, I can try to answer as much as I can. All right, so that's one thing. And on YouTube, what do we have? A lot of happy people. Thank you for saying that my drawing style is awesome. I really appreciate. Thank you. Okay, back to the matter at hand. I have this thing that I've shown you. So like I said, there's a mask that only allows this thing to appear. So I'm going to just Control Z a few times. I'm going to show you what the actual piece looks like by finding it in my node view. Sash. Oh, there we go. The naming might be wrong because, like I said, I'm trying, like it's a work in progress rig, and I've done it kind of fast. I've done that in like 2 days. Yeah, 3 days, I think, with all the weird stuff happening. Okay, so that's the piece, how it looks like. And that's... Wait, can I show it to you like this? Okay, there we go. That's what I wanted to say. So that's where my dress will appear. Of course, in my node view, I have my sash, and it's not connected to like the blue is not connected to my main composite. I just have the color art, and the color art uses a color that is set to 0, or usually like 1 or 2%. That's what I use, I think. So like the sash color, like I can make it, sometimes I make it a little bit translucent so that I know where to click. Like if I was an animator not used to that rig, that's what I would do. But like since I build the rig, I know that there's a sash there, so that's what I do. So that being said, the sash has the deformer. So that the sash is what's going to decide what's the shape of this. Oops. What's the shape of it? I'm going to make it even more flashy so that you see it. Ooh, okay. So this is going to appear where the sash is allowed to appear. And the sash's shape is actually pretty darn simple. It's just a dream. I think I didn't take the right one. Ah, there we go. So the sash looks like this. And this is the piece that you're sliding across the mask. So like I said, if you're a beginner cutout animator, you might think this is weird. I thought it was weird when I started out. But it's when you get used to it, it's just a different way of thinking, and there's so many advantages over this that it gets to be very useful. So this is useful for most of your scene. However, if you had a scene like this, where like there was lots of wind and you would like that piece here to move with the wind, like sometimes you could just make an extra piece just for that scene. Like what I'm teaching you guys is what is going to be useful for like 70 to 80% of your shots, right? If there's extreme wind, like just make a piece for that a specific angle and you're going to be fine. This is super important to remember when you rig. That's a rule I learned on the industry. Rig for like 70% of your shots, or like maybe 80, depending on the show and on the budget. Try to rig for most of your scene, but it's impossible to try to make a rig that's going to cover every possible angle that you're going to have. I've seen people like try it and their rig looks amazing and people are like, oh wow, that's so great. But like when you look at the rig, it's so heavy and so complicated. It's like, yeah, look at my rig. It can be like a top view. I'm like, when are you going to need a top view in your series? Like, really? Just make a top view rig for these 3 scenes in your whole series that you're going to have. Because let's be honest, most of the time your characters are shot like this and they're talking because that's what's important. Emotions. So yeah, usually when I rig for like 70 to 80% of my storyboard. Or if I don't have a board of like most life situation, which is not seeing your character going from quarter front to top. It doesn't happen that often, I swear. Trust me, I'm a professional. So yeah, like the percentages might be different. Like I don't care if it's like 60, 70, or 80. Depends on the show. It depends on the studio. But the takeaway is that don't make a rig that's going to do everything. Remember that there's some scenes where you're going to have to do rig per scenes. That's how we call them. Right, so back to the problems at hand that I was explaining. If you have a dress like this, I do recommend doing this. However, it's not perfect. There's no perfect method to rig one of those. The problem that arises with this, and there's no really solution for it, is that it's going to give you a very big piece. Because when it comes to the selection tool, it doesn't take into account what has been cut, simply because it's just physics, like software physics. Like calculating the cutter into the bounding box would just be crazy and bug and crash and burn. So it doesn't do it. So what I do to solve this problem is, like I said, you rig for most of the shots. Well, being able to move your sash from like left to right is really important. I think it's important enough that I will endure this rectangle. However, I do know that it's not in every scene that my character will do a 360 and will need to see like all of those. So what I do is I take the drawings, and if you look at my library, my drawing substitution, I mean, and I hope I'm right. Yeah, okay. So what I did for the sash is that I made drawings where there's 2 repetition instead of there. Let me show you. Yeah, so I made an option where there's 2 repetitions instead of 4. 4 would be if I have lots of action in my scene or I need to do like a 360. 2 is for 80% of my shots. I will usually just need some little like possibility of movement just to give it a bit more dynamic look, I guess. 4 repetition will be for a very actiony scene, but usually just 2 will be fine. And you see it reduces the size of my rectangle. So if I was a rigger from my animation team, that's what I would do. I would have an option with lots of definition and a smaller option. Riggers could argue that this is way too much time for me to spend, but I always believe in treating my animators with lots of love, because nobody's job is easy, and this honestly takes me not more than like 3 minutes to do, and I'm being like slow. It's really just making a duplicate and removing 2 of the repetition. It's nothing, and this will make animators' life that much easier. Like it's nice. It's a really meaningful difference. So Yeah, so that's what I would do. So that's what I did for this rig, and it makes it easier. The last thing I want to show about this is that yes, it is annoying because then if you try to rotate it, you have to zoom out and like do this. I mean, you won't need to often rotate it, but if you need, it happens. So what I also learned, and I didn't know in the past, is that you can click on this icon, the rotate icon. Shortcut Alt plus 3. That's also something I didn't know. You can click on this, and then you can use your keyboard arrow. I think it's left and right. Yeah, left and right to rotate stuff. I had no idea you could do that. That just shows you how you never stop to learn. So that's kind of neat. So that's what I would do if I needed to animate it and it was like zoomed in or whatever. You can just click on it and use your arrow keys. Rejoice. Okay, so that's how I would do the sash. Of course, the mask part has deformers, but the sash part also has deformers. Have deformers or has? It has. Yeah, it has deformers, so I can click on it and I can still like edit it if I need to. And because I'm lazy and I've tried it a lot, I've tried many different ways to rig that sash, from having individual pieces for the colored thingy here. I got rid of them of the extra pieces and extra deformers just because it was way too many deformer points to move. This is like an executive decision I took. I was like, you know what? Most of the time it's good enough to be linked together. If I really need more definition, however, what I did is I took the darker part of the sash and I gave them their own drawing. So if in a scene they do need to have more definition, like more animation, like more wind or whatever, like she takes it off and she throws it. If she needs to, it is an extra piece on its own. So I can decide to give it their own sets of deformer points or whatnot. Like there's an option for it if I need to. But it's just that most of the time I won't because I don't need to. Oops. Where did my deformer go? Oops. I put my deformer on the wrong part. But I'm going to show you quickly. Let's say that this is my deformer. Did it quickly, so probably not going to be right, but I don't care. Like I could have its own deformer now. So if I need to. But honestly, most of the time I wouldn't need to, so I didn't include it. But if somebody wants to make some cool animation, they can do it. But I did not include it. So I use a weighted deformer on both of my drawing. And this is why I can have a deformer in two drawings, because usually it's not common. It's just because I left it as an option. Okay, so let me check the chat. Oh my god, so many things happening in the chat. Is it generally easier not having to deal with the line art? Yes and no. For my style, I think it's easier because I like to work with shapes and silhouettes, but you do need very good artists to work with this because you have to do very dynamic poses. And because like if I put the arm in front of the torso, well, they're gonna disappear. So you have to be careful, and it really depends on many factors. So I don't think it's easier or harder to work with lines. I personally, like, that's a personal thing. I don't like to animate with lines on my rigs just because I like this look better. However, if you go for a lineless look, there is what I think, like, there's a lot of responsibility that goes with it because it can be 10 times harder than with lines. The reason why it's not harder for my rigs is because I am my own art director. So I make calls like arms will have lines so that they don't connect with the torso. But chances are that arms are going to keep their lines all the time. Because what gets complicated is when people want revealing lines. Okay, so that's what I want to talk about. The problem with rigs is not lineless rigs. The problem is lineless rigs with revealing lines. What is a revealing lines? You can ask. If we have time at the end of the stream, I'm going to show you. But it's basically when you have a piece that only has a line when it appears in front of another. Yes, I know how to rig it. Yes, it's possible. Do I recommend it? Not really. I mean, it's possible if somebody really wants it. Like, I've done it for some rigs in the past, and it does look great. It's just so much effort for an output that is not that worth it, if I'm being honest. Like, people that are going to watch your show are usually not going to care about that. So, meh, call me lazy, but I'm just saying what I think. But it is possible, and I do use it, but for other things. Like, I would use it for very general things, not for every detail of the character. Like, I might want to do it for the arms, for example, but like not every detail of the character. So if you're a director out there that wants to go with a lineless look, I would say go for it, but just expect to be able to make compromises, because not everything will be easy to rig, and I don't think it's a good option um if decisions make that the production will be way more complicated and expensive for little details that are maybe not that important. But oftentimes, because people don't understand how hard they can be to rig and stuff, so I that is a good maybe subject I could do in the future, talking about lineless versus line. Thank you for the questions. I'm sorry I went on a tangent right there. Let me see. Okay, I think I'm good. Well, for Sneaky Des, it is easy to do revealing lines on anything. Like, I could do it right now after. The only thing is that it gets harder since we work with the ZDef, and Flash doesn't have a ZDef. So, like in Flash, if I want to take the arm here and bring it in front, or like if I want to take the hair and bring it back, I need to literally make a new layer for the hair and place it back, because you cannot move your pieces as easily in Z space. The thing is, with Harmony, you actually can. It's really easy to just bring things forward and backward in your rig. And because of that, the revealing line sometimes will break. That's the only thing. But I'm not saying it's impossible to do revealing line. It's easy to do. It's just that if you need to do it for every piece of the character, that's when it's not hard. It's just time consuming. And to me, I don't think it was worth all the time to do that. But for a certain style, it's totally worth it. And I've seen beautiful things done with that style. I could send link when the stream is done. So just to clarify, I don't think it's bad to have revealing lines. I just think that sometimes also for some parts it might be more wise to try and make compromising. Like, maybe not every line needs to be a revealing line. That's more what I meant. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly. I see your point of view for sure. As long as you don't need a lot of revealing lines, they're manageable. Exactly, and they're really great. Basically, one way to do it is that you would have the line art here, but only allow this color or this layer to show on top of another piece. So you would use like the different pieces as color with themselves. It's just that when you start to do lots of Z depth action, it gets a bit messy and hard to manage, but it is manageable. I'm just lazy. And I wish more people were lazy as well. But yeah, so it is possible. I just wanted to answer that both line and lineless style can be complicated. It's just depending on which fight you want to fight. So that's good. The other thing I want to show is oh, and by the way, the trick I've just shown you, it also works with lines. Like, it 100% works with line work. It would be the same technique, exactly the same. It's just that instead of cutting everything, I would have like the line art showing and whatnot. So it is possible. It's just more nodes, but it's totally possible and it works. Would you use a line art node for something like that and just have that reveal, not to sidetrack? I would, but then again, that's what I mean by compromises. Sometimes it's easier to work with the color art, like line art and color art. It can get a bit more complicated if you want the line to only appear on top of certain colors, because then instead of using line art and color art, you have to use color overrides. Color overrides are amazing. I love them. they're also very heavy if you use them everywhere. So I think my takeaway would be that if you can use like line art and color art, usually it's faster, I think. But if you have to use like 46 color override just to make the line work for your torso, maybe you need to compromise, and maybe some of these lines are not that important. Because revealing line is cheap. Color changing the line to match certain colors of the other pieces, this is where it gets messy, and I don't even want to get into that today. It's already been 30 minutes, I'm sorry. Yeah, so just to repeat, you have a piece that is a mask that allows a water piece to show up. This is kind of similar to what I did for the torso here. I have these, like actually the torso is one full shirt. Instead of rigging the shirt like the shape like this, just because it's easier to make it turn into quarter front and profile, what I did is I have a full shirt, and the asymmetry is made with these two circle. So it's not done, but if I go to my rotation, it's really not done. So don't judge it too fast. Yeah, so when you make your character rotate, instead of having to change lots of pieces, what I do is I mostly just do, I just like change these circle a little bit to fake my angles. And yeah, so that's what I do, and it works. But honestly, like these types of shirt, no matter the technique, it's always a bit more work to do them. It's not easy. It's not usual. Like usually just a t-shirt is super easy to rig. But like, I like challenges sometimes. Like that. So that's her shirt. I wanted to show. So like that, what I want to show is that sometimes as a rigger, you need to think outside the box, but not too much. Just that sometimes the first answer might not be the best one, and the only way to know that, what is it? It's to try to animate it and see how easy it is to pose. So, of course, in a studio, you don't have time to try all of your characters. I really wish we could, but we don't. So that's why it's so important when you learn to rig or when you try new techniques, because like a off-the-shoulder shirt like that, maybe in your show there's going to be more than one. So, but like when you kind of troubleshoot and try to rig it for the first time, always try to animate it and see if it works. And that's how I think riggers learn. It's being a good rigger is just having so many situations build up in your head. So just like oh, this is important. Listen, guys. Just like animation, because I know that people are going to get into rig and this is the first thing they want to rig. Do not attempt a character like this as your first rig. Like, are you going to try to animate Spirit the stallion running from quarter front, camera shut down, running at the camera and making a backflip? No, you're going to do a bouncing ball. So don't start to rig this character. Start to rig an eye. Start to rig an arm. Start to rig one foot. And then as you go on, you kind of build your vocabulary of rigs. So you know how to rig an arm, you know how to rig an eye, and then you just put them together, and then you put them together, and one day you're gonna have this thing, and it'll be like, oh my god, how do I rig a shirt like that? And you're gonna try to use all the tools you have in your box. So rigging, just like animation, the more you do it, the better you get. So don't get discouraged and don't try to rig something impossible from the first run. Because you might do because if you try to rig something impossible, you might have a good front view, and then you're going to try to make other views and you're going to be like, oh crap, I don't know how to rig. So learn little by little. So what's your best recommendation? Like a show like Cam, for example, where they constantly have to have revealing line art. Cam, I don't remember that show. I'll have to Google it after. I'm going to Google it right now, actually. Cam. But Cam can't have revealing line. You're right. Oh, that one. Okay, sorry, because I know so many camp show. That's from that show. Well, from what I remember, Cam had revealing lines, but they were always the same color. It was not the color sensitive one, and I think it worked great. I'll have to look it up to make sure, but from what I remember, Camp had pretty simple revealing line, and they didn't have them for every pieces either. I think it was pretty well managed. I'll have to look it up, but thanks for the recommendation. I'll go look it up. Okay, so back to the thing I wanted to show. Oh, by the way, before I go to another subject, when I do handles that are very big, like this, like shapes, sometimes if you want to click something under, it's going to be hard because that piece is hiding everything, right? So what I like to do with my pieces is, if you look at my drawing, where is it? Oh, there it is. So that's my baked potato. Of course, on the line art, that's the part, that's the art layer I use to cut my shirt. But if I go to this, if I go to the color art, no, the overlay or the underlay. Yeah, underlay is the one where I put my handles. I just put the surrounding, and I made a very, very large surrounding so that when I click inside, I don't select it. And the underlay is actually the only thing that is attached to my main composites. Yeah, so that's my piece. And then I have my underlay, and that's the only thing that goes inside my node view, so that when I go to my camera, if I want to click on that patch, I can just click on the surrounding. So I think it's easier, because then if I want to select the collarbones, I can still go select them, even though they're under that piece. I like to do these types of handle for lots of things. I'm going to do them for the dress as well when I'm done with that rig. All right, so that's all I had to say for now for that rig. Unless anyone has any last questions about this one, I'm going to go to my other subject that I wanted to talk about, which is mouth rigs. All right, so let me check the chat real quick. Because I still have 20 minutes to go, right? And you're not getting rid of me that easy, guys. Okay, and let's look at the Twitch one. Oh, Carlos, would this assembling a pre-made rig be a good way of understanding rigs? If it's a good rig, yes. If it's a bad rig, maybe not. So just I think it's like when we ask if artists should copy each other's art. I think they should, just to learn. Sorry, my phone rang. But just like if you want to learn to draw better, it's always great to draw anatomy studies. It's amazing, from like pictures and videos and whatnot. However, I think it's also great to kind of learn from other artists how they draw. So as long as you don't post it on the internet, it's okay to take the art from someone and like trace it, just to try and see how they do it, how they schematize stuff. Well, it's the same for a rig. So just like for art, if you trace an art that is maybe less experienced, you can kind of learn the mistakes of that art as well. And in a rig, it's the same. If you take a rig that is maybe not industry standard or industry proven or whatnot, you might copy some mistakes. So always be extra careful and try to get them from like good sources, and try to look at the experience of the riggers. So like, did they work on many industry shows and whatnot, and just to try to make sure that. But the best way to learn rigging is to, yes, dissect other people's rig, but also to try it, because what works for one show will be absolutely not okay for another show, right? So it's always great to dissect, but just make sure that you're not just taking what's in the rig and making it your own, because that'll be also a very bad thing. So if you just assume that my rig is great and you just take this and you apply it to another rig, might not work for the other rig, right? So it's always about understanding and building your toolbox. And the best way to build your toolbox is to create rigs. I've made so many rigs before this one, like so many rigs. And each time I did a rig, I've learned a little bit. So I think it's pretty important to do that. And learn more rigs. So So what I want to show for the last part of this stream is more about like mouth. Oh, wait, I found what I was looking for. So one of my first rig that I put out there was the little bluebird that you might see a lot on Toon Boom's like a learn portal and website and whatnot. So I have it right here. That little bird. If you want to try to make a first rig, make something simple like this. No hand, no foot, just shapes and little things like that. It's going to teach you a lot. And like everyone, like all my mentors and all I say to my students, that saying is so right. Fail early, fail cheaply, and fail often. Because each time you fail, you learn something new. Failing is great as long as you're not failing in a production or something, right? So always be careful. Okay, so I'm gonna go grab my scene that I had here. Okay, so one thing that I've seen some people advise to do and that I'm not super okay with is when you have a character and the character has a mouth. Usually you're gonna have multiple drawings for that mouth. If you're doing a drawing substitution based mouth, and like a really wide one, and then there's always the th sound with like the teeth, like that. Okay, so what I've seen suggested by people online, and it's not fundamentally bad. It's just that you have to be aware of some things that will happen if you do that. What I've been seeing trendy these days is to put one deformer per shape. So I have one deformer here, and then if you make another drawing, if you go to your deformers, there is a way to do like a new deformer. So you can just click on your drawing, and then you go here with the icon with the plus sign, and you can create a new deformer chain, which means that now you will be able to make maybe like another deformer for your mouth. And bear with me, I'm doing this super quick. Okay, that's not actually how the deformers would be, but I'm doing this very quick. And then, oh, another mouth drawing. I'm just gonna make another deformer. And of course, if you were a good person, you would rename them. I am not a good person today. So you would have this. And from the get-go, it looks amazing. You're like, wow, I'll have so much control over all of my mouth shapes. Okay? And I'll keep going. I'm just going to finish these very quickly. Like that. And I'm saying again, it's not fundamentally bad to have multiple deformers on the same layer. I'm just going to show you what can actually go wrong when you do that. Okay, that's enough. And then for this one, I'm just going to say no deformer. There we go. Like that. Looks great because then it means no matter what drawing mouth substitution I have, I can animate it the way I want. And of course, I would need this to be a weighted deformer, so that's even more heavy. Weighted deformer, where are you? Weighted deformer. There you go. Like this and like this. There we go. So now it's going to work. Yeah! So it's great because now each mouth of my lip sync, I can animate it. Like, what if I have this, and what if in one of my 300 scenes, I need this exact drawing and I need to do something like this with it? Oh, I can do it with my deformers. That's so great. Yes, but look at what your timeline is going to look like, because each of these deformation you just made are in that group. And then when you open the group, that's one deformer chain per drawing. And I've seen this in rigs with mouths that had like 36 mouth swaps. That means it's 36 envelope deformer you're putting on that mouth layer. You know what 36 deformers do in a rig? It makes your rig really heavy for nothing. So now I only have 4, so it's kind of heavy. But now look at the timeline. It means that now all of this is just for my mouth. And imagine if you had like 36 of them. So it just becomes very hard to manage honestly, I've tried it. Like, I've been in productions that tried this. It was not great. We, like, animators didn't have a good time because rigs were slow and like. So I don't recommend having a full lip sync with each of the mouth having their own deformers. And I'm saying this because when I first started to rig, I did that, and I was like, "Oh, that's so great." And then I tried to animate it, and I was like, "Oh my god, why did I do that?" So then again, I make mistakes so that you don't have to. And because yeah, and like when I learned rigging, there was no school to teach rig to. There was no online classes about rigging. You just had to do it. So I learned it on my own. It took me like 10 years, maybe not 10 years, maybe like 5. But yeah, everything I did, I learned it on my own. And then when I got a job in studios, I learned at the studio. Oh boy, and when you learn from your mistake at a studio, boy, do you learn. You don't want to make the same mistake twice. Oh no. So yeah, I make mistakes so that you don't have to. So go ahead and put multiple deformers on the same layer. Just not 36, please, on the same layer. And then again, I've seen it. I'm saying it because I've seen it. Um, um, yeah, I was thinking of where did I put a choice of two deformers? Yes, okay. A good place to put a choice of deformer would be if you had hair or like an arm or something. Okay, I'm gonna go with hair. So let's say that I have another layer. It's a hair layer. Like or like an arm. Yes, this is very popular with arms. And with arms, I'm 100% in agreement with this. Let's say that this is my arm. Shape. Gonna try to make it a bit round. There we go. So this is my arm of my character. And a lot of shows are gonna have choices for the arm. So there's gonna be one drawing where the arm will be a curvelope. That's how I call them. Because they're curved traced with an envelope. Why do we do that? It's because with the envelope, every point is independent. So you can do some things like this. You can do like a caterpillar, just like going away. Which you cannot do with a curve. I'm going to show you what a curve would do. Where's my deformer? Yeah, with the curve, you could do something similar. But if you try to do the same caterpillar thing, I can do my first here and this. But then if I try to move this one, it doesn't work. So that's why I don't use curves anymore. I use curvelopes for 90% of what I do. Curvelopes is just a term that I don't know, that we came up with it a lot in Montreal. I don't know if that's a common term out there, but I know that most places I've worked at in Montreal use that term. So, then that's what we made. If you have another term for it, I'd like to hear it in the chat. How do you call these things when it's a curved trace with an envelope? Huh? I'm pretty confident in curvelope being an efficient term, but maybe you guys have a better term. I don't know. But like I said, sorry, I keep making tangents. I need to focus more. Yeah, so if your arm has a curvelope like this, it's great to do some noodle action. It's really great. So like if your character is far away and it's just just want the arm to move a little bit, that's great. However, if you need your arm to have more definition, like for this guy, and you want you actually need to show like muscles when the arm kind of like bends and whatnot. So sometimes it is better to have envelopes around it. So a lot of people are going to say that the first arms will be like envelope, and then they're going to make a duplicate of the drawing. So I'm going to go to my drawing subs. Oh, by the way, that rig has the template of the arm. That's just because it's a work in progress rig. I like to keep that. But this is my final arm. Then what you can do is give it a duplicate. And then for that duplicate, you can make a new deformer. And of course, you wouldn't name them because I would be a good person, but I don't have time to be good today. I have to rough things out. So I'm not gonna name them, but you should. So then with my plus sign, what I'm gonna do is for this one, Wait, the first one was an envelope, so this one will be a curvelope. Okay, curvelope. I got it. So that if you needed to do just something quick, just like bend it a little bit, like just take the curve. It's gonna be way faster. Especially if you're in older versions of Harmony where you cannot move multiple points at the same time. But then if for another show you need another thing, you need to have the envelope, then you can just switch your drawing and take the envelope drawing. This is completely acceptable and is completely proven enough. And I bet if there's cutout animator in the chat, they've seen that everywhere. Like everybody does it. It's proven, it's working, it's great, everybody likes it. But now we're talking about 2 deformers, not 36. So that's okay to do that. Of course, I wouldn't do that for every pieces. It's just the one that is often used. So like the arms, you're going to need often to have the curve and the envelope more often than not. Hair, also sorry for that noise. So hair is important. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear the sirens, but we had a big snowstorm in Quebec, and now there's like cars going in the street with loud horn to say that they're gonna shovel or something. Anyway, what was I saying? Yes, for arms, it happens a lot that we need to change the deformer, so I would put it there. The thing you have to remember though is that you cannot animate from one deformer to the other. It needs to be so if you want to tween, you have to keep the same drawing because you cannot tween from a curve to a curvelope. It's not the same deformer. It's not the same keyframe. So you have to be careful when you do that. But it is common. It is used a lot, and it's a good method that I recommend. So then again, 1 or 2 deformers, maybe. 36 option, maybe not. And I'm going to look at the chat for the questions, and I think that'll be it for today. These things go by so fast. I'm sorry. I wish I could talk more. But, if you want to hear me more, you can come on my YouTube channel where I speak a lot every night, if that's what you want to hear. But yeah, so let me check the chat and see what everybody else has to say. That siren sounds very French-Canadian. It is French-Canadian. You're absolutely correct. Lasagna deformer, it's noodle that can also wrap around a thing. I like it. Deformers depends on the style of animation. Yes, that is correct. The deformers, it will depend on what style of animation you need. Because if you do rubber hose style where it's very cartoon, like I think the legs in Camp Camp, I do remember seeing a rig. I think, was it Camp Camp? Like I think they had the like curvelope and envelope options, because if your character is far away, they could just do rubber holes, but sometimes they needed more foreshortening, so they needed the envelope. But if you have a very, very cartoony style of animation, most of the time a curve or a curvelope will be just fine on your arm. You won't need like all the definition. It just depends on the style of things that you are doing. Okay, let me see if YouTube has questions now. Sorry, I have to handle 2 chats. That's a lot of chats. Let me see. Oh, Giovanna Afonso says, any tips for setup with Photoshop backgrounds? I don't have time to show you, but we have a couple of links I can send right here, right now. I'm going to send them to you right away. And I'm just going to go here, have a little zoom in the meantime so that it's less boring. Yeah, there we go. Less boring like that. And I'm going to show you a link real quick. We have a page here to set up a multiplane. Right here. Oops, that was the wrong chat. There we go. So this is for Giovanna. And we also have right here I also have one that is a bit more recent. There we go. You can also check this one, and there's like a background that you can download. So I posted it in both chat actually. And yeah, I think that should be most helpful to work with. And oh wait, there's one more, and after that, I will quit. But I forgot I had this one too that you can check out. I've completely forgot. I made it so much time ago. I have a tutorial about how to import PSDs into your scene. How amazing is that? Not amazing, I mean convenient. Why did I say amazing? I meant convenient. Okay, so you have 1 more minute to write a question so that I can see in case somebody was writing. And in the meantime, I'm going to give her a happy mouth because everybody wants to be happy. I'm kidding. This is starting to look weird. Like a turtle. Yeah, and in the future, what some streams I could do is streams about lineless rigs. I can also do streams about games. I can make streams about lots of things. But one thing I want to do is a stream about how to rig mouth, because there's so many ways to rig your mouth. And I know that I have this mouth that people have been liking lately, because it's a mouth that can go from profile to quarter front very easy, because it's the same mouth, like it's the same mouth that just goes around the character when you rotates. So that is maybe one future stream that I'm going to do, because it's always fun to be able to animate your mouth very seamlessly. And it's a deformer mouth, so like you can just move the points. And yeah, but it's the same mouth, because if I bring the mouth inside the face, it still works. Kind of. So it's all tricks, mind games, dare I say, that happens. So yeah, so that is something I can do in the future. So let me know what you want to see in the chat, and I'm gonna finish on a cool pose. Give it a second. Oh, there we go. Yeah, cool pose. There we go. And I'm gonna go check the chat. And see what you guys have to say. What's a good way to tackle a rig given by studio for a test? So if you have to animate the rig, I would say start with the extremity of the limbs, like the hands and the foot, and then make your way up pressing B. Always check which kind of deformers you have in there, and try to move it on your own. And if it's a rig, how to tackle a rig given by a studio for a test, always try to ask if there's documentation about how they rigged, so that you can reproduce what they do. I really don't know what to answer about that, because I've never had to do a test for a studio for cutout or rig, so I have no idea what I'm saying. I'm just trying to help you out, but yeah, I'm not the best person to ask. I'm sorry. Yeah, but with that, I guess it's a farewell, and I wish you all a wonderful day, and Happy New Year, and bye-bye.